father. Hey, spicy, pricey, making wrist icy. Bitches money and making
There's nothing wrong with being an okay bitch. What? As long as you're not a basic bitch.
That is Angela Bassett.
We are the chosen ones, bitch. Hey.
Never have I ever stolen a boyfriend.
Sorry, Quinta. It was Dre.
Who cares? He had a Flintstone dick.
What is a Flintstone dick?
You had to use your feet to make it work.
Ew.
So a Black Lady sketch show is going to be coming to HBO. It debuts on August 2nd. It's going to be a half-hour sketch comedy show that features Black women. And this is considered to be the first sketch comedy show written by, directed by, and starring Black women. And so I am very excited about this because we've seen bits and pieces of this. You know, here's the thing that I am concerned about though. I'm very excited it's going to have a great cast. So it has Lauren Ashley Smith, who's the head writer of The Rundown, and Robin Thede, who's the head writer and co-executive producer for this particular show. And then it's going to have a great group of Black actors and Black women. So Robin Thede, Ashley Nicole Black, Gabrielle Dennis, Quinta Brunson. It also looks like they're going to have some great guest stars this season. We did hear in that clip the amazing Angela Bassett. I have the biggest crush on her. Tia Mowry from Tia Mowry, Lena Waithe, Patti LaBelle is going to be on it. We did hear during that clip also David Allen Greer was in there. So a ton of people are going to be in this. Here's my concern. I do think that it looks funny to me. But my only concern about this show is that some of the topics that they have, I think are very funny and very, broad appeal. But I do have concerns whenever they have a show that focuses on this particular type of subject matter that people are then using, instead of knowing that we are showcasing and parodying and doing some sort of satire on certain subjects, a certain part of our population is going to take it as gospel and then use it as an excuse to be able to do, say, well, they said it, I can say it, and those kind of things, which is the problem that I had when we had the Dave Chappelle show, is that there would be comments and sketches and things that Dave Chappelle and subject matters that he would take on that I thought were very funny and very well showcased on his show and were appropriate, but then other people would go, well, he used the N-word, now I can use the N-word, or he said this and this is what they're like, just like that old school Chris Rock sketch where he's like, there's black people and then there's remember that sketch, and then everybody goes, well, he used it so I can use it. No, you can't. He's doing some sort of satire. There's a reason why he's saying it's okay, and then people would take it too far and go, well, he even said there's a difference between you. So that's my only concern, is that if a certain segment of our population is already looking for a reason to differentiate and say, here's what, quote unquote, those people are like, then now they have a sketch of even somebody who is amazing like Angela Bassett making a joke about those things. They'll go, see, look, they do call each other bitches. They do this, they do that. What do you guys think?
I hadn't even thought of that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to respond. I don't feel like the show is being... The show is for a specific audience, too, that hasn't been heard or seen or made visible.
Right.
So if there's a side people who watch it and misinterpret it, I don't even know what you can say about that. I mean, they're not really making the show for the people who are misinterpreting it.
Oh, clearly not. And I don't know
how you're supposed to anticipate side consequences like that.
And I, definitely am in support of the project, and I want there to be voice and footprint given to this particular thing. I'm just going, I wonder if they thought through that, or if that was something, like if I was creating the show, I would go ahead and do the show anyway. Don't get me wrong. I would use I would use my voice and my platform the way that I saw most appropriate. But I wonder if they're in their writer's room and in their producer room, because of the other projects that they've done, if they're sitting there going, okay, now here's what we're going to say when everybody decides that this is an excuse for them to dress up in Halloween as this. Because if the show takes off, do we then have to worry about other people going, well, now I'm going to dress up as this particular character?
I hate to invoke Bill Cosby, but it's sort of the Bill Cosby thing that he would say. And I just watched the Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee that just came out with Eddie Murphy and Jerry Seinfeld. And Eddie Murphy they talk about Bill Cosby, and Eddie Murphy talks about how Bill Cosby was harder on him than he was on other people.
Yeah.
And he would call him and say, you can't be like that. You can't say that. Don't do that. You know, because I think it was that fear that you're this big example, and when you go and do things, people are going to think that's okay.
Yes.
Did Eddie Murphy, sorry to interrupt you, did he change his behavior as a result of that?
He thought it was crazy that Bill Cosby said things like that to him, and he knew that Bill Cosby didn't say that thing to other people.
Right.
That did the same thing. He thought it was completely out of line and wacky.
And he talked about it in one of his, his bits that he had back in the day about how Bill Cosby called him up and said, you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that. And he did it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that it's interesting that conversation might even be called into play, because I could imagine, because I have people that have those conversations with me where it's like, okay, well, you are supposed to be an example for multiple reasons, and I do think that puts a lot of weight on the performer. Instead of going, well, this is the particular art that I have, here's what I think is funny, here's why I decided to do it, the fact that you then have to go, especially when you're the first, so much about the show is the first of its kind, so not only do they want it to be successful, and I do think it has the right backing to be successful, and they're putting the right kind of budget behind it, and they're promoting it, so I think they're not hedging their bets on it. But I do think that there's some additional pressure on this show to do more than just be funny. And that, I think, is unfortunate.
Yep.
But the only way that we get past that, in my opinion, is to have more of these products.
Yes.
And so when you are the only and you are the first, then people expect you to do so much.
Yeah.
You know, like when we you know, this is a loose example, but if we're talking about we'll use two. So the recent Mindy Kaling movie that came out, you know, kind of Mindy Kaling and Emma Thompson. So we have their movie that's out right now. And then that was one of the concerns about that, is that they're going, does this movie, Late Night, do enough for quote unquote feminist viewpoints? And they're going, we wrote a comedy and we handled a couple of things and this is what we're doing. But the fact that it didn't push farther, they preemptively got some, well, you should have done more. Or if you look at Captain Marvel, it was the same thing. They're going, okay, we have a female protagonist. She's a great superhero. Everything's like, but should we do more? And I think that that's because we still live in a landscape where there are so few products of these kinds that they're like, okay, now you have to take every stride, you know, in this one product.
Yeah, it's on, I mean, and look at Black female sketch comics. I mean, just look at it on Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live, when it first premiered, had female sketch comics on it. It had one black male sketch comic, no black female sketch comics. And I don't even know when finally a black female sketch comic was on Saturday Night Live.
I think it was Sashir Zamata.
I mean, years.
Yep.
And now they have two at once, maybe.
Yep.
And it's recent. It's like
That's
really,
so
really
recent.
Like 2 years, 3
And,
years.
and they still have times when there's none.
Right.
And it's by outside pressure. I remember a few years ago, they hired a bunch of new members on the show, and they were all white men.
Yes.
And people were like, what
is this?
in the world is going on? And that's when they went out, they found Leslie Jones. And boy, has she been good.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
So I just feel like even now, there are so few, and I can think of all female sketch comedy shows that have come up. There's been no black women sketch comedy shows out of so many sketch comedy troupes that I know and love. Most of them are white male.
Right.
And so, I mean, just this existing is great.
Right. I agree.
Just conceptually, the idea of it. And like I said, Saturday Night Live has a struggle that they don't go and even try to put black females on unless everybody's like, are you crazy, Lorne Michaels?
And I do think that it's interesting. I think it's always cool to talk about these things, and the fact that we're talking about a comedy and we have to have such a serious conversation about it. But I also think that it showcases the way that diversity and inclusion has worked in America, because we started all these diversity and inclusion programs, which basically went, okay, we have diversity and inclusion, which I love my co-hosts, but that means the first thing we got were white women. And so we're like, look, we're done. Oh, no. There's still other things we have to do.
And talk about Mindy Kaling.
Right.
She was a diversity hire.
Exactly. And
she would never have been on The Office.
Right.
If they didn't hire her as a diversity hire. And she says that.
Right. Which is one of the jokes that they make, or a major part of late night.
She was a diversity hire
in that movie as well. And so going, okay, even if you are a diversity hire, then that does mean there's more pressure on you to succeed. Because if you mess it up for everybody else. Because now they get to say, nope, this is why we don't have them. So I do encourage everyone to watch a Black Lady sketch show.
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be really funny. Watch it appropriately. Do not use it to go out there and pick your Halloween costumes, though.
Oh, my God.
I know that we're all groaning, but I need to articulate that.
Of course you do.
Gonna do
it. No, you're right.
Otherwise,
you just gave somebody an idea.
No, I just talked them out of it. They're like, wait, I can't. No. You can't. No, just saying that. Just preemptively warning everybody that's out there. As we move on in Enthusiastic Women, now it's time for our segment, Does This Make Me Old? We took our little break in between season 1 and season 2. And during that time, there was so much goodness out there in the world, and a lot of it came on the back of Keanu Reeves. Right, Judy?
I didn't know that Keanu Reeves appeared, because he's always, since 1986, he's been a fixture in my life. I know that he's known as the internet's boyfriend, and maybe it's because I spend so much time on the internet. He spawned that meme, Sad Keanu, 9 years ago when he was looking sad on a park bench, and multiple memes since then, which is why I think even though he's a Gen X actor, quintessential Gen X actor, millennials have glommed onto him. They've glommed onto him as the internet boyfriend of millennials.
Which I think is fascinating because, as this one article puts it, he is a 54-year-old overnight sensation.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's go through. There's a Twitter account with 200,000 followers devoted to Keanu Reeves doing things like, either wearing a fedora or hanging out on set with Sandra Bullock's. He, like I said, he's been in 66 movies.
7 of which we watched.
What?
3 of them were John Wick, and then the other 2 were Bill and Ted.
And then,
some were The Matrix.
The Matrix, and there's so many good ones. And of course, the one that put him on my radar in 1986 was Youngblood, because he's Canadian. He is Canadian, and he was a hockey player. He was a goalie. He was known as The Wall, and he got cast in Youngblood, and then I think got a better role. But that's the Rob Lowe hockey movie that,
if you say so.
I grew up a lot in North Dakota, and hockey was huge. And Youngblood was a huge movie, and Keanu Reeves is so good in it. He plays the goalie, and he gets a few talking lines, which is, whenever Keanu Reeves talks on screen, it's the same, right? But he's perfectly cast as a goalie, because goalies have these personalities that are very zen-like Keanu's. It's kind of like when he's in The Matrix.
Right.
It's a perfect...
It's very Keanu.
It's the perfect role for him.
Speaking Matrix.
Speaking of Keanu speaking, here, I have this.
Are we in The Matrix? No. Hi, I'm Keanu Reeves. I'm here with BuzzFeed to play with some puppies and answer some questions.
I'm going to let a couple questions play. Because he is sitting on the floor surrounded by tiny puppies.
Oh, I've watched this.
Look how cute you are. You're like a cutie pie. You're a cutie pie. Let's answer some questions. Which one do you think? This one? All right. What is your secret for always staying down to earth? Well, gravity.
Boom, shit. Ba-dum.
Hello. Let's see. If you could time travel to any period in time, when would it be and why? Oh, we got puppy pee. Oh, let's play in the puppy pee. No, we're not going to play in the puppy pee. I always wanted to know, since I was growing up, who really wrote the plays of Shakespeare. So I want to be there at that moment when Shakespeare, because I don't think it was William Shakespeare. I'm an Edward de Vere, so the Earl of Oxford. So I'd like to be there, 1600s, Shakespeare writing Hamlet.
Judy is cracking up right now. Judy is cracking up. Okay.